Welcome back. You're watching France 24. Coming up, 2 injured in a knife attack outside the former offices of Charlie Hebdo in Paris. 2 in custody, including an 18-year-old who has reportedly confessed to the meat cleaver assault. Currently in trial in Paris are accomplices of the 2015 massacre suspects at the satirical weekly. Spain's health ministry calls on the Madrid region to shut down the whole of the capital as local authorities partially extend pinpointed COVID lockdowns. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the first woman to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol, this ahead of Donald Trump's announcement of a successor to the late Supreme Court Justice. Kedavan Gorjestani, our Washington correspondent, will have a live update. It's a symbolic place, says the French Prime Minister. 2 television production company journalists on a cigarette break stabbed outside the building that once housed Charlie Hebdo. The attack took place near the mural depicting those murdered in the 2015 assault on the satirical weekly. 2 suspects, including an 18-year-old who's reportedly confessed. This Friday's attack coincides with the start at the beginning of the month of the trial of 14 alleged accomplices in that 2015 attack. Pierre Delrieux has more.
The attack occurred just before noon, near the former offices of the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo. A man wielding a large knife led a seemingly random attack against 2 journalists working for a production company just across the street. One of the victims was badly injured, but has no life-threatening injury. France 24 spoke to one of their colleagues.
The 2 wounded are 2 producers, a girl and a man. So far, the information we have is that their lives are out of danger, which is the most important for us, of course.
Within a few hours, Prime Minister Jean Castex and Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin were on site.
I wanted to come and show my solidarity with the families of the victims and to all the work colleagues of these 2 journalists.
The perpetrator was arrested a few minutes later, not far from there, on Place de la Bastille. The neighborhood was momentarily locked down and several schools in the area confined. France's anti-terrorism prosecutor has opened an investigation for attempted murder in connection with a terrorist organization.
Regarding the investigation, the main perpetrator was arrested and is now in police custody. A second individual has also been placed in custody in order to investigate his relations with the main suspect.
The second suspect was reportedly arrested in the metro. The attacker's motive have yet to be determined, but this attack comes as the trial of the 2015 Charlie Hebdo attacks is underway in Paris. An attack that took place in this exact location 5 years ago, in which 12 lost their lives.
France 24's Wasim Nasser monitors jihadi networks for us. Wasim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
What more do we know about these suspects at this time?
Well, at this point, we know that, as you said, that one of the suspects and the one who committed the attack confessed his deed. And most probably, I was told by sources close to the investigation that the second suspect would be probably released. He doesn't have anything to do with it. And in contradiction to what was said on some media outlets that he had a police record, the guy who is in custody now, he doesn't actually have a police record. He's very young. And we don't know much
18?
about... yes, and we don't know
Born
much
in
about...
Pakistan?
Yes, that's it. And we don't know much about his motivations. Because up to this point, no organization claimed this attack, despite the fact of the ongoing judgment of the 14 accomplices of the attackers of the 15th of January of the 7th of January 2015 of Charlie Hebdo. We don't know yet if there's an organization behind it, but what we should take also into consideration that the republication of those drawings had a big implications in the Muslim world lately, and not only Al Qaeda and the Arab Peninsula issued statements calling for attacks, which is usual for them. Those kind of claims that never stopped, or calling for attacks in the West, it never stopped. Calling for attacks against Charlie Hebdo never stopped. And this republications of the cartoons made it come back again, maybe a little bit harder. But what we should take in consideration that many voices in the Muslim world express themselves against their publication of those cartoons. For example, Al-Azhar in Egypt, is one of the most prominent religious schools and institutions in the Muslim Arab world, issued a statement saying that it wasn't good to republish, that it's...
But it's one thing to condemn a publication of cartoons. It's another to call
for attacks.
Blind attacks and possibly even murder, which hasn't happened, though.
Of course, exactly. And this is why we should also look into the details of this attack. It happened with a sort of knife, a butcher's knife. It doesn't look like the attacks that were prepared by Al Qaeda and Arab Peninsula and perpetrated by the Kwachi brothers back in 2015, when we know that one of the brothers went to Yemen, he got training there, they came back with a mission to attack Charlie Hebdo, which they did more than 3 years and a half after his visit to Yemen. We know that lately also Al Qaeda and the Arab Peninsula committed an attack at Pensacola in the United States in December 2019, where they succeeded in attracting a Saudi jet pilot, a military Saudi jet pilot, and they sent him to go to a military school in Pensacola in the United States.
So carefully prepared
and he
attacks.
killed his colleagues there. And this attack was prepared since 3 years.
Right.
This
time it looks improvised.
This time it looks improvised. It doesn't mean that Al Qaeda is not preparing, or the Islamic State is not preparing attacks, but improvised attacks tell us more about the kind of attack that we are talking about. So this person who committed this attack could have acted on his own.
And again, that begs the question, and you and I know the drill, because unfortunately there's been so many of these attacks over past years. At one point or another in the coming hours, there's going to be a claim by somebody. Does that claim matter?
Well, we don't know yet if it's going to be a claim. If this is why I was saying, if we witnessed a complicated attack with arms, with the crew, like the Kwashi brothers, we can suspect a claim. And I can tell you also that the attack of Charlie Hebdo happened on the 7th of January, and on the 9th, just after the killing of the Kwashi brothers by French police forces, or GIGN at the time, gendarmerie.
Special forces.
Yes, special forces. I got the claim from ACPA saying that we did it before the official claim. So if there would be a claim, it will happen, and we will know that there are ramifications. But it doesn't look like it, because he wasn't prepared. It was random. He mistaked the place. Charlie Hebdo wasn't there anymore.
Or he didn't mistake the place, because after all, it was done outside the murals of
maybe
where there was
maybe yes, maybe no. But he got caught very quickly. He was wearing red shoes, so very identical. We can identify him among the people in the street. He didn't go very far. He was arrested very quickly. And what happened after and he was even arrested before the state of emergency that was declared. So it was his arrest was very, very quick. So it shows us that he wasn't really prepared to commit this kind of attack. In comparison, the Kwashi brothers committed the attack, killed the people who worked at Charlie Hebdo, killed a civilian, killed a policeman, and they escaped. And the police forces searched for them for many hours before they find them in the place where they hid in the suburbs of Paris. So it shows us a very different kind of modus operandi, at least. But anyways, I think we will know very fast if he acted alone or he was pushed by someone. And we shouldn't forget also that for terrorist organizations, they can prepare complicated attacks and at the same time call for random attacks.
Many thanks for that, Wassim Nasser. A Norwegian court has an extradition request from France for a suspect linked to an attack in a Jewish neighborhood in Paris in 1982. Friday's ruling says that it can be examined. That's an important step on the path to extraditing Walid Abdul Rahman Abu Zayed, the one-time militant of Palestinian radical group Abu Nidal, now holds Norwegian citizenship. He insists he was in Monte Carlo when 6 were killed when a group of men lobbed a grenade into the Joe Goldenberg restaurant and opened fire. No one has ever been convicted. Hours to go until all bars, restaurants, and gyms shut down in Marseille for 2 weeks. Earlier, hundreds marched in the French Mediterranean port city against tough COVID restrictions that are being experienced as an injustice by some in the country's city that holds the highest coronavirus mortality rate right now since the spike at the start of the month. Local officials denounce the government order, saying they weren't properly consulted.
Est-ce qu'en effet, il n'y avait pas d'autre solution possible? Pourquoi est-ce que c'est aux restaurateurs et aux bars de payer l'addition quelque part?
C'est la goutte de trop, on laisse les supermarchés ouverts, on laisse tout, il y a beaucoup de monde ouvert, et nous qui sommes quand même relativement corrects avec autant nos clients que nous, on nous empêche de travailler.
Aujourd'hui, on est en colère, mais surtout, on est dans l'expectative, c'est-à-dire qu'on n'a pas de vision, on n'est plus maître de nos destins.
In neighboring Spain, feuding between local officials and the government as well, the Madrid region upping the number of neighborhoods back under partial lockdown. It is now 1 million of the capital's 6.6 million residents that face restrictions. All or nothing, say these protesters who rallied. It turned violent this Friday with at least 3 arrests. The National Health Minister agrees with their message.
Primera recomendación que ha hecho el Gobierno de España, todas las medidas que se han aplicado a 6 distritos de la ciudad, a algunas áreas básicas de salud de 6 distritos de la ciudad, a toda la ciudad de Madrid y a todas las ciudades que presenten incidencias acumuladas en los últimos 14 días de 500 casos por 100.000 habitantes, que es el doble en números redondos de la media que tenemos en España.
Yeah, in Marseille, it's a full shutdown that's taking place, as we said earlier. In Paris, it's going to be a 10 p.m. curfew. Same story in the UK. England and Wales to putting that in place. Peter O'Brien has that story.
Pub goers neck back a final pint as police get ready to enforce the new 10 p.m. closing time across England. In this part of London, where pubs normally close at 11 anyway, drinkers are mostly understanding.
We need to do what we need to do to fight this COVID.
And it's sort of finding a balance between protecting jobs and protecting parts of the economy while also protecting lives.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one. Well, at least we're working, at least we're open. So yeah, sure. If this is going to be one of the first steps before going back to quarantine, that's going to be a shame.
The clock strikes 10 and everyone's out. Some weren't quite ready to leave.
It feels like a breach of our civil liberties. And I'm not very happy about it. Not obsessed about it, I understand.
The government has enforced the curfew because of the increase in daily reported cases of COVID-19 in the UK. Now it's more than 6,500 a day. Pubs must now also provide table service or risk being fined.
She's the first woman to ever lie in state at the U.S. Capitol, the honor going to Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who passed away a week ago at age 87. The leaders of both chambers in attendance for a tribute that was also a nod to the progressive icon's lifelong love of opera. Tributes also coming in from the top Democrat on Capitol Hill, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
It is with profound sorrow and deep sympathy to the Ginsburg family that I have the high honor to welcome Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to lie in state in the Capitol of the United States. She does so on the catafalque built for Abraham Lincoln. May she rest in peace.
This moment symbolic for more than one reason. Let's cross to Washington and correspondent Ketevan Gorgistani. Ketevan, listening there to mezzo-soprano Denise Graves, you have the impression that it's the calm before the storm in Washington.
Yes, this is probably the final day of calm, as this is the final day of public ceremonies for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There were the 2 previous days where she was lying in repose at the Supreme Court, today at the U.S. Capitol, and then next week there will be a private interment ceremony at Arlington Cemetery. But as of tomorrow, we'll be hearing what person Donald Trump has chosen to put forward as a nominee to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it's going to be all about fighting over who that person will be. She will be a woman. Who she will be, we'll find out later on Saturday. But I want to speak a little bit more about the ceremony, because you mentioned and we heard the opera, which was a nod to her great love of opera. There was also another very touching moment. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in the later years of her life, was known to be a very feisty, even though petite woman, but she was seen in the documentary, and she was seen many times doing her workout sessions almost every day, even during the coronavirus, so up to just a few months ago. And her personal trainer was actually there in the U.S. Capitol. And as he was paying tribute to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, he lay on the floor and he did 3 push-ups in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So that was quite a nice nod. And what is happening right now is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's casket is going to be coming out of the U.S. Capitol. And the steps of the Capitol are lined with 4 rows of women, representatives and senators. All these women, bipartisan women, 4 rows, dozens of women lining the steps to say goodbye to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it gives you an idea of the symbol for women here in the United States, from all generations, all backgrounds, all races, and all political parties, and how much she meant to these women. They are going to be the ones to say the final goodbye to Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
And we're watching those live images as you're speaking, Ketevan Gorgistani, of that casket going down the steps of the Capitol. You say both political parties. Is it a bipartisan moment?
Well, at least for women in this moment, the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a bipartisan moment. But obviously, it is not in who will be replacing her, because these women that are lined up together on the steps will be fiercely opposed to each other in the coming days and weeks, as the confirmation process for the nominee that Donald Trump will put forward will go through. You will have very hard hearings probably coming up, and very tough questions coming from the Democratic side as the Republicans try to put forward someone who will be probably very conservative, probably one of the most conservative judges on the Supreme Court. The front runner whose name has been coming back over and over again, that Donald Trump is likely to choose, is Coney Barrett, who is someone who is a federal judge, but she's someone who's known for being extremely conservative, a staunch, fervent Catholic, a mother of 7 children, very anti-abortion, and that is going to be something that we will have to keep a close eye on, because, of course, the Republicans and the conservatives in general are very focused on Roe v. Wade, that landmark decision that gave abortion rights to women in the United States. And that is something that conservatives want to get rid of, or at least reduce to the maximum, while the liberals are trying to fight that.
Well, let's watch Ketevan Gorgistani as we see the casket there departing from the rotunda of the Capitol. As you were saying, first ever woman to be so honored It's a rare distinction for a national figure in the U.S. to have their body lie in state at the Capitol. And as you said, the funeral to take place in a private ceremony at the National Cemetery across the Potomac River.
Exactly, and it's actually there have been less than 40 people who have laid in state at the U.S. Capitol. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course, the first woman to do so, also the first Jewish person to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. And as you said, that funeral at Arlington Cemetery will be a very private event, and she will be laid to rest next to her late husband, Marty Ginsburg, who passed away back in 2010, and they had also a marriage that was something that was very important to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She always said that part of how she got where she got was because she had a husband who supported a woman who was working and who was pushing forward for equal rights.
And she supported him while he was at law school recovering from cancer.
Exactly. It was really a partnership, and back in those days, it was a very odd partnership, not one that you saw very, very commonly. And so she helped him at the start of his career, and then he helped her back when she was rising in the field of law in the United States. And of course, he was always behind her when she was working at the Supreme Court. He was the one who, there have been some testimonies from people that knew them both. He was the one who would call and ask her to come back when she was working extremely late into the night. And people who knew them both said that when he passed away, there was no longer this person to call her to leave the Supreme Court, and she would stay very, very late until really towards the end of her career at the Supreme Court and the end of her life.
Yeah. One final question for you, Ketevan. I know news cycles move fast where you are, and next Tuesday there's going to be the first presidential debate, but this battle over Ruth Bader Ginsburg's succession, can we expect it to be the issue between now and Election Day?
Well, it's hard to say because every week we think that something is going to be the issue that will change the race, but it certainly will be something that is very important. It is going to be one of the 6 themes of the night for the first presidential debate, and it has in a way really changed at least how some and many voters view it. We've always seen conservative voters being very interested and very keen on voting according to Supreme Court, whether it's who will nominate the judges, but also the issues that matter to them, like the abortion question or gun rights. But we've seen this happening with Democrats, with liberal voters after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because they realized that the issues that they care about are now in danger after her death.
And we're seeing the casket there departing from the U.S. Capitol after lying in state. First ever woman to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. Ketevan Gorjestani, many thanks for being with us here on France 24.